Hello, everyone. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, coming to you once again right here on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook group. Actually, I guess this is the page we're broadcasting now on, but coming to you live, and it is just a little after 12 noon Mountain Standard Time here in the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page. So we'll wait a few minutes for people to tune in and connect. All right, now they're starting to come in. And today is actually going to be a really, really fun EE Live Q&A because once again, I have joining me a special guest. And I see Ralph's there. Hey, Ralph. I had a wonderful weekend with you and your family this past week. It was fantastic. I'm actually going to share I don't think I got one. Do you know what, Ralph? I don't think I actually took a picture with me and Jaden. But anyways, I'll share a little picture of my newest little friend here, who I'm gonna post this while we're waiting for people to come on. Ralph, I'm gonna move this photo from my phone of my little namesake, Jaden Mark Hansky, who I went up to Edmonton over the weekend for his birthday. And it was so much fun. Had a chance to meet my dear friends, Bella and Kai and Ralph, and spend some time with them and their, and their friends up there in Edmonton, which is about a 5.5 hour drive from here. So yes, so I'm going to share that little picture here in a second once I get it moved from my phone over to the computer. But yes, today I have a special guest that's going to be joining us, and Raminder Shah, one of our newer permanent residents of Canada, who I guess I would classify him as one of our Canadian Immigration Institute alumni. So good to have him with us, and he's going to be jumping on in just a few minutes. Before we get to that, as you are connecting, make sure you post in the comment section where you're listening from, because yeah, I love to give shouts out to people who take the time to join us live. I also have questions that were sent in previously that made it past, and you can see right here at the top, Stephanie, because when you send your questions in, what I want you to do, this is your first kind of opportunity joining me, I suspect it's probably not, but for those of you who are new, or those who are watching this on as a recording on the YouTube channel, which is growing, which is totally cool as well. If you want your question answered but you can't attend live, send an email to Stephanie right here at stringham.ca, put EE Live Q&A in the subject line, and if you can get past her, then you'll get your question to me. And I have a few questions here, quite a few, and she has screened out a few because the questions were really provide me with specific information on my case. Well, that's something that requires a legal consultation. Other than that, if your question, the ones that are actually going to be the most beneficial to the thousands of viewers who watch these, those are the ones that are going to get through. But Stephanie is the gatekeeper. So one day I'm going to bring her on here and she can give you guys a wave. But at this stage, she is the one that you've got to get past if you want to be successful. So welcome to everybody. And those of you who are tuning in live, just post in the comment section where you're tuning in from, because I love to see where everybody is listening from. All right, we'll wait a few more minutes for people to come in, and then we're going to start off this EE Live Q&A with about a 10-minute little segment here where we're going to have my fine guest here give a little bit of his backstory and share what it's been like for him as he's transitioned to Canada after he successfully obtained his permanent residence. And for those of you who are self-employed individuals, this is exactly the type of thing that we're going to be talking about, because these are some of the issues that we dealt with together. So, all right. So it looks like the comments are slow in coming. So for whatever reason, they're slow. So we'll just leave them there. Okay, here we go. Now they're coming. So Lovepreet is from Punjab. Excellent. And yeah, like I said, those of you can just post. All right, so we'll proceed forward. I am going to pull in now. Let's see, Salaf is from Sudan. Hey, cool. I don't think I've had anyone from Sudan before. That's neat. So yeah, just keep posting your comments. But without further ado, let's jump in, and why don't I just bring in my special guest today here. And I think let's pull him in here, see if we can get his audio working. There he is there, and I'm going to add myself in here. And we are in business. I'm going to get rid of these other distractions. And there we go. Let's see, who else do we have here? We've got Pulkit is also from India. And Mahesh says, hey, how are you doing? Okay, let's see if I can hear you now. Are you good? Is my fine guest
Yes,
here?
yes, I can.
He's here.
Yes, I can hear you.
So
Yeah.
introduce yourself to everybody. Your name,
Hi,
where
this
you're
is
from, and where you're going to
yes.
be settling in Canada.
Sure, I am Raminder Shah, and I was self-employed in India. I belong from Punjab, and I'll be settling down in Calgary, Alberta, which is quite close to Mark. I think it's 2.5 hour drive, I believe,
Yeah, it is.
from Lethbridge, right? And Fortunately, I have an opportunity to continue the same business I was in India. That's a translation company in Canada as well, and I'm pretty sure Mark is going to help me in future as well.
Very cool. Absolutely. I'm going to be sending him
Yes,
work with this new translation
yes.
business that he's starting, which is awesome. So tell people how you and I connected.
Actually, the process for a self-employed person, it was pretty hard
It's a
because
freaking
I did not.
nightmare. It is a nightmare.
It is. I realize that now, because the documentation it's not quite simple. I mean, wherever I went on the forums and everywhere I read for the salaried individuals, it was pretty easy. It was like, get the reference letters and everything, show that you're working full time, you're fine. But for self-employed, you have to show that you have been working full time. That was the hardest part. And that's where Mark came into picture. I booked a consultation with him, and he helped me to, how to organize things and how to move forward. And the best part was when I got stuck in my process. That's where the magic came in, and he actually wrote a response letter for me, which helped me sail through.
Yeah. And those letters, they're a collaborative affair. And this is what I do with all of
Right,
my clients, right? I don't know
right,
everything there is to know about your business. I know the way an
right.
officer is going to look at how you answer your questions,
Exactly,
but it's collaborative. We
exactly.
work together to build it, and that's what makes it so awesome.
Right. Yep.
So you obviously it worked, right? So they were inquiring. I can't remember. Did they send you a fairness letter and say provide more info, or
No, no,
was it
no.
just
They
stuck?
did not. No, they did not send a fairness letter. I think they had some problem with the PCC,
Mhm.
and they were not able to verify my work experience from one of my clients. And that's what it was.
And
I'm
that
not
was
too
and
sure
you
right now.
we found that
Yes.
through an access to information request, right?
GCMS, yes,
GCMS, yeah.
from a GCMS notes,
And
yes.
I'll jump in there. So some of you, yes, if your application is taking longer than 6 months, then yeah, it's possible that there's something going on in the background. And in those circumstances, it makes sense to request the GCMS notes, the Global Case Management System notes, to see what's going on, to see if an officer is having to send for a further review a certain aspect of your application. And if you're self employed, guaranteed that's usually what's hanging it up. So if it's after 6 months, then yeah, it makes sense. And so that's kind of what we did, right? You requested the GCMS
Right.
notes and we looked through them.
Yes, it was taking quite a long time. It took around 11 months for me.
Mm-hmm.
And as you suggested, I gave them all the evidence of my work. There were like 600 pages that I totally I submitted to CIC
Yeah.
initially with my application. So I think nothing could go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then yes, that's what we did. After 10 months, I requested my notes.
Yep. Exactly. So we were able to kind of preempt it. So they didn't actually
Right,
send anything back to you at
right,
that time. We kind of
right.
preempted it a bit and sent it in before. Oh, by the way, here's some more information just in case you're having trouble, which of course we knew, right? So That's
Right.
awesome. And then in the end,
Yeah.
the magical
In the end,
passport
the
request
magical golden
came,
email
and
passport
there's
request
like
came. Yes.
celebration.
Right. And the best part was to land in Calgary. The weather was amazing at that time when I landed. It's been a month already, I think, since I came back to India to settle down things and
Mhm.
wrap up my business here in India and finally move back on October the 20th and, start doing business in Canada.
Very cool. Okay, so while the people that are watching, if you have a question for Raminder, just post it in the comment section, and then we'll go back and we'll try and answer that kind of near the end. So, what is your plan now? So you're obviously back in India, but you landed and or you're in the process of kind of getting things prepared for your family to join you. So how is that going?
Actually, I landed with my family and we all got our PR cards. I came back just because I had a running business in India, so I had to wrap it up. I had to channelize it in such a way that I could manage it
Yes.
from Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back. I got my company registered in Canada, website and everything all done, sorted, bank accounts all open. So actually, I'm currently working from within Canada, but staying here in India. That's what I'm doing right now.
Excellent.
So a little more marketing when I come back, and I think we should be rolling.
Awesome. That's exciting. So how do you
Yes,
feel about
yes.
this? Like, are you excited?
It's
Because,
it's
because
exciting. It's very excited. I'm really excited because everything is so easy. Everything like you don't really have to go anywhere. Just one visit to the bank, everything is done online. Just a few clicks, company registered, bank account open. That's it. That's how easy it is, and there is no hassle at all. You can
excellent.
just sit wherever you want to. Like I mean, wherever you are. Some people think it's very cold, but I don't think because once you're in your office, you don't feel the cold
Yeah. Yeah.
or the heat outside.
Absolutely.
Everything is very easy. Yes.
Yeah. I remember I went down to San Antonio, Texas, the end of June when I very first started practicing for an immigration lawyer conference down there. And I'm from dry Alberta here. And I went down
Right.
there and that heat hit me. And I thought, how in the world could someone live here? It is so hot. You can't escape it. Well, the reality is people stay inside, right? They've got air
Right.
conditioning. Well, in Canada,
Exactly.
yeah, it can be freezing cold outside. But that's why we have heat in our homes and we spend time in our homes. Well, you guys spend time in your houses anyways, right? So, yeah. So
Right.
it's not nearly as bad as people make it
But
sound.
that's just for winters. But that's just for
Yeah,
winters. Summers you enjoy so much.
absolutely. Okay.
Summers are to enjoy, to barbecue and just have fun outside.
Yes.
Summers are for that.
Very, very cool. Okay. So just
Yes.
one other reminder, if you have any questions that you want to ask Raminder about his experience, you can post them in the comment section and we'll cover those. If not, that's totally cool. So Raminder, tell me about your experience interacting with this character here. Like so many people online see me blithering away, talking, saying, "Hey, I've got a 50% off consult, blah blah blah." And the reality is, I fight every single day to help people to understand that I'm not the same as everybody else. But what was it like?
Right.
Did you feel it was worth it?
Oh,
And I'm not, and this isn't something we
well,
prepped before. I want you to be honest. Like, did you
certainly.
feel like it genuinely
The
helped you?
first, the first interaction I have. Let me just tell you, I've had total of three calls with Mark. Actually four, three before my PR and one after that. I'll talk about all of them. First call was just to get the insights of how to do it because I had no information being self-employed. I could not find anything on
Yeah.
the internet at all, and nothing was helping. And I was like totally, there was no way I could go. And Mark helped me prepare a path for myself, which I followed. Second interaction was I was stuck in the application process where my application was initially cancelled because of an incorrectly translated certificate.
That's right.
I mean, I translated it myself for my son's birth certificate, and I shouldn't have done that because that is supposed to be done through a professional company or someone else.
Right.
Not you. You cannot do it yourself.
Yes.
And the third interaction was when I found out there were discrepancies in my application in the GCMS notes. And I think Mark helped me in all of these interactions like the best way he could. Especially for the last one where he said, "Okay, we still have like 20 minutes remaining in our call, and what I'll do is I'll use these 20 minutes to write up a response for you, so that you don't do anything wrong." And that response was perfect. I did not make a single change in that response. I just sent it the way it was, and it worked really well. And then the fourth time, which was after my permanent residency, I was calling him to find out how to get my employees to Canada.
Yes.
That is the exciting part. See,
Yeah. I'm really excited about that.
yes,
Very,
and hopefully we'll do that together
very cool.
very soon. Yes,
I soon. And when are you planning on coming back to Canada with your family and kind of resettling?
uh, October 20th.
Very cool. So just a little over a
It's not
month.
too far. Just a month.
Yeah.
Yes, just a little over a
Awesome.
month.
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so Kabir asks, "Hi Raminder, how many days to get your PR card?"
I got it in 15 days.
So, and it didn't used to be that way. It
Right.
used to take a whole lot longer. So it's, yeah, 15 days is traditionally what we're at right now, and give or take. So one of the things that some people, obviously, just like Raminder, you have to settle your affairs back home, and sometimes the timing of when you have to complete your landing isn't really great. So it is okay to do what we call a soft landing, like to come to Canada, kind of land, complete your landing process. And in the past, it was a little bit of a problem because it might take over 60 days or close to 60 days to get that PR card. But now they've really worked hard to bring that time down, which makes it a whole lot easier for people who need to do soft landings to be able to just land, wait just a couple weeks to get the permanent resident cards, and then go back home to to tie up all their affairs. So, excellent. All right. So, any last kind of parting thoughts or comments, Raminder, that you want to share with everyone?
Um, I would just say it seems very easy to do it yourself, but an expert's help is really important. And I like it's once in a lifetime opportunity. You get an ITA, you might not get it again.
Yeah.
So don't miss on it. Don't lose it.
Yeah.
So I would just say that hire a counsel.
That's kind. Well, the reality is, and like this whole purpose wasn't to plug why you should hire me. That's not the object. But he's 100% right. The smallest little
Right.
insignificant thing that you miss can result in your application not being refused, but just returned for being incomplete. And when sometimes people don't have the right document in, it gets returned. You go back into the pool, and maybe it never drops down to the level that you were given your ITA. So for you, Raminder, what was your comprehensive ranking system score when you were drawn?
Uh, I the first time I was drawn, it was 454,
Mm-hmm.
and then it dropped because of my age. It dropped down to 449, and then the second ITA I received was at 449.
Right.
So
Yep.
it was, and after that, I don't think the idea ever came down this
It
low.
never did, right? So you
It
think if
never did.
even at
Yes,
449, where you think, oh, I'm probably okay.
449. Yes,
Yeah. So
right,
that's
right.
that's the
So
consequences. So I always advise people to at least have someone take a second look at it. Just make sure that you've got a second set of
right.
eyes. And awesome. Well, that's great. Well, thanks so much,
Yes.
Raminder, for joining me. I know it's
Thank you.
it's
Thanks
pretty
so much,
late
Mark.
there, but
Yes,
I'm really grateful that you took the time to join me. And there's nothing
it's a
more
pleasure.
rewarding for me, especially for people like you, self-employed, because it's really tough than to have played just even a small little part in your journey coming to Canada. So, and for you to come to my home province of Alberta, that's what's doubly cool.
Yes,
So
yes.
awesome. So thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, thanks so much. Let's see if there's any other
You're
questions. Usman says, "What's your educational background and your knock?"
I don't remember my knock now. I think it was 2144. I
But you
don't
were a
exactly
translator,
remember it.
right? It was
No, I applied under project manager,
project manager. Okay,
translation project manager. Yes, my educational background is MBA in HR,
hmm,
human resources.
gotcha. MBA. Hmm.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool. Very
And it
cool.
was assessed as MBA by IQAS.
Ah,
That's again Alberta. That's a
yes.
connection, right?
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's a good point. So why did you not use
Yes.
Wes?
Actually, that the university I did it from, it was not listed in West, so I
Wonderful.
had to go with IQAS.
Fantastic.
Uh, and I got it through the first time. I actually applied to two, ICES and IQAS.
Hmm.
I was just checking today that my ICES's application is still pending. They did not even reply, but Alberta is great. Alberta has been kind to me, so I'm paying it back.
That is so awesome. And then you've got another
Here's,
visitor. Come on, bring him
yeah,
forward
here's my
here. This is the
son.
fam.
Yes, here's my son. He's shy
Awesome.
now.
This is what it's all
Yes.
about, right? Coming with your family.
Yes, they cannot hear you. Actually, I'm wearing my headphones,
Yes, yes,
but
but they could still make
and
noise.
that's my wife waiting for me so that we can go to sleep.
Wonderful. They're like, we want to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's so late.
He has to go to school tomorrow, so that's why we try to sleep in a little early.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Well,
school
I'm
time still for him.
right. Well, I
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time to come and join us today. And it looks like, yeah, I think we'll just end the questions there for now. But thank you so much for joining us. And
You're
we'll let
welcome,
my
Mark.
special guest drop off here. But I'm sure we'll talk again soon, my friend.
Bye.
Okay. Take care. See you.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Well, that was awesome, guys. So cool. And, it's always nice to see a real live example of someone who has come through the journey, right? And when you think about the case of Raminder, the reality is his self-employed work experience was really tough to prove. And so most people who are self-employed, that's a big issue. And probably, well, a ton of my consults relate to self-employed work experience and how to prove it, how to document it, because the onus is on you. You can't pass it off to any, you can't say, well, I just don't have anything. You have to work hard to prove it. And in some cases, some people just don't have the proof. Even though they did it, they can't prove it. So because of that, they're then not able to immigrate to Canada through express entry because an officer won't accept it. So that's kind of yeah, that's kind of a little bit of the background and history of my guest Raminder, and yeah, hopefully we can do more of those in the future. All right, so we've got here Matuz is an Egyptian USA citizen, would like to immigrate to Canada. Fantastic, we got room for you, my friend. Let's see where else other people are tuning in. Let's see here. We have got Marlon is watching from BC. Uh, Jassi is India. Ahmed is Afghanistan. Great. Awesome. It's good to have all of you guys joining us today. Okay, so what we're going to do is, like I explained before, that was a great little interview that we had with an individual who succeeded with with a self-employed work experience, which is fantastic. And there's Ralph as well in Edmonton, and that's good that Ralph posts here where he's from, because I was with Ralph just on Saturday. It was a great opportunity to go up and see this fine fellow right here, smiling away. This is just the coolest little kid, and something that I will forever ever be a special place in my heart. This is Jaden Mark Hansky, and Ralph's sister Bella and her husband Kai, for some crazy reason, which I still shake my head at, named him after me. And I had the absolute pleasure of working with them. And it was really tough. And even Ralph, you can confirm, right, my friend? It was really tough to get permanent residence for them. It was a long, hard process that took a lot out of them. But in the end, we were successful. And they had to make huge sacrifices. And little Jaden just turned 2 this year. And so we had a little birthday party for him. And I had the pleasure of going up there to be there and to support them in that. And so that was my weekend, and it was a wonderful weekend. And really, that's what happens sometimes. My clients, I don't. You always want it to work out, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But when it does, oh, as an immigration lawyer, that's why I practice immigration law. It's because of that feeling that, wow, I just helped someone in a way that they weren't able to do it themselves, and I did some good in their life. I created an opportunity for them to immigrate to Canada where maybe they would not have had it. And so to be involved with that, the satisfaction I get, that's why I do it. I'm definitely not an immigration lawyer to become a rich millionaire. That's for certain. I would have stayed working at the national law firm in Calgary if that was the case. But I do this because I love it. I do it because of all of you guys. All right. So Ralph confirms, yes, it's hard. All right. So let's start with the questions. Let's dive in today. The first question that we have here, and just a reminder as well, if I can pull this up here, if you have a question and you're watching this as a recording, you can actually potentially get your question answered. And all you need to do is send an email right here to the bottom, stephanie@stringham.ca. And don't forget to put EE Live Q&A right here in the subject line. And when you do that, then Stephanie will take a look at it and she will determine if it's a question that's of general interest and general importance to many of the listeners. And those are the ones that get chosen. All right. So let's jump in here and let's see what she has chosen for me today. And guys, this is kind of like, there's no prep. This is, let's see what they say. Okay. This one is from Wahid. And he says, hello, Mark, great videos and appreciate your efforts. Recently, we received our WES report and it says diploma 2 years and bachelor's degree 3 years. And for a spouse, it says diploma 2 years, bachelor's degree 3 years, and postgraduate diploma 1 year. Do we consider 2 or more for both results? Yeah, and when it comes to postgraduate diploma, sometimes that can be considered a master's. But generally speaking, when we're doing our, if it wasn't an actual master's graduate level diploma, then often in these circumstances, both of those would be considered as 2 or more credentials. Now I'm going to go in here and I am going to, let's see, I'm going to close that window. I'm going to share my screen here with all of you. And okay, I'm going to go right here. And if you go to ECA, EEIRCC, this site right here, let's see if I can find it. Is it this one? Yes. And I'll put the link right into the comment section here for those who are watching live on my Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page. Right here, you'll see there's a section, number 4, what your report means. And when you click on that, you can actually go and try to figure out, all right, so it's for the comprehensive ranking system, and you see the points, and then you can type in what your credential is. So in the case of Wahid here, he says that it is diploma 2 years. So if we type in here diploma, and then let's put here 2 years, see if anything comes up. Okay, so you can see college diploma 3 years, college diploma 3 years, 3 year. Okay, 3 year or more certificate plus a diploma, or a degree plus a diploma 2 years. So you can see by searching, you can actually figure out what your assessment says and then what it equates for the purposes of express entry. And then it even tells you how many points you should be awarded. So that's a link that I would encourage you to check out. And it can be quite beneficial when you're trying to figure out what your educational credential report, the ECA that you get back, what it actually means. Okay, Mohammed says, hi Mark, as my wife is a primary applicant and she has 1 year of experience as a psychologist and 3 years to now as a clinical psychologist in the same company, we're nearly to get the reference letter and the employer is agreeable to, which is great because not all employers actually are willing to issue reference letters, at least in the way that you need them. Is it any issue while the issuance of 2 reference letters in the same company? No, it doesn't at all. You can have 2 different letters that cover 2 different periods of time. But usually I will put both of them in the same letter. And then when it comes to your document checklist, when you are submitting your EAPR, I upload that same letter in both spots. Because if you have 2 separate sections or entries in the work history section, even if it's for the same company, if you have 2 different jobs and you list them separately, it will trigger the need to provide a reference letter for both of those jobs. And so often what I'll do then is I'll just put both jobs on the same letter and then I'll just upload it in both sections. But if you want to do 2 separate letters, that's totally fine too. Either way is perfectly fine. Okay, good question, Mohammed. And those of you who are posting comments, just hold off, okay? And once I give you the green light, the thumbs up, then you can post your comments. All right? Okay, so this one here is Osgur, and he says, "Hi Mark, thanks for these awesome videos. I have a question about travel history. I'm a Turkish citizen and visited Northern Cyprus a couple years ago. Northern Cyprus is not a recognized country by Canada. I know that, and I had a client that was there too, and it was a royal pain. Turkey is the only country recognizing Northern Cyprus. In addition to that, my passport wasn't stamped in the border during my visit, but my visit is included in my country's border control database. Do I need to include my visit to the travel history?" So the short answer is yes, 100%. Whether you got a stamp from the country or not, that's irrelevant. You're going to include that stay in your travel history, always 100%. When it comes to the whole stamping issue, only in your current passport, it says when you're providing that, your passport plus a copy of all stamped pages. But just because you don't have a stamp doesn't mean that that's going to be a problem or that you're not going to list that travel history. 100% you are. All right, good question, Oscar. Okay, this one is Sarah, and she says, "Hi, Stephanie/Mark. I need help in this question. Thanks in advance. I'm the main applicant and my spouse has a relative in Saskatchewan. Can I claim points on this?" So when it comes to points, and we're talking about family members, there's 2 ways that people can get points. So if we go to the Federal Skilled Worker Program, and many of you outside of the country do not even know that this assessment is happening. When you are eligible to submit a profile into the Express Entry pool, that means that you are actually eligible for, in this case, the Federal Skilled Worker Program. If you're not eligible, then you don't even get into the pool. But when it comes to family members, there's 2 places that you can get points. One is through this actual Federal Skilled Worker Program. And the points come from something we call selection factors. So there is a point system built into the Federal Skilled Worker Program that is out of 100 points. And the pass mark, or the eligibility mark for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, is 67 points. So when you're looking at this selection grid and you're looking at the point allocation, there's points for language, you can see. There's points for education. There's points for work experience. So a lot of the same things overlap, but the points are calculated differently. And when you get down to something that we call here adaptability points, you can get, and they're out of 10 maximum points, you can get points for a family member. And if you're looking at a family member, relatives in Canada can give you 5 points towards the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And on that list is a parent, a grandparent, child, grandchild, a sibling, or an aunt or uncle. And so that's where the question here was asked, I have a relative in Saskatchewan, can I claim points on this? Well, if your relative is one of these, then you can potentially get 5 extra points right here towards the 67-point pass mark associated with the Federal Skilled Worker Program. But for most of you, you don't need those 5 points. If you rank high enough to get, say, an invitation to apply, it usually means that you've got plenty of other points in other areas. So that's one place where you can get them. But when it comes to the comprehensive ranking system, which is really, I think, what Sarah was asking, the criteria for the comprehensive ranking system actually award points for a family member, but it's much more restrictive. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, the points are actually for only, let's find the right spot here, a brother or sister. So if you or your spouse has a brother or sister living in Canada, that's a blood brother, in other words, you share parents, who is a citizen or a permanent resident of Canada, you can get 15 extra bonus points. So for your question, Sarah, I can't tell you how many points, because it depends on whether or not what type of relative you have. If it's a brother or a sister, then you can get 15 points under the comprehensive ranking system. If it's anyone else other than brother and sister, you're not getting any points under the comprehensive ranking system. That relative would potentially give you 5 points under the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility. All right. Next question is Silvana. Hi, Mark. Thank you for your awesome and useful content and for having such a nice and sweet attitude. Well, thank you. I try not to be a jerk. And so if that translates to being a nice person with a sweet attitude, I guess I'll take it. My question is the following. It concerns all PNP applicants. Okay, this one is a little bit tricky. So these express entry are really geared towards express entry. So this question, I'll read it, but I may not be able to answer it here. Okay, does having a nomination give applicants any sort of priority treatment when applying for PR since your case has already been reviewed and approved by the province? Alberta in my case. I've read controversial opinions on this regarding from so-called experts. Give me a break. But I don't want to base my expectations on those consultants. Lots of love from Venezuela. All right, Silvana, it's pretty simple. If the program that you were awarded a nomination under is a provincial express entry program, you're going to get an extra 600 points. So Alberta does have a passive program where you go through the process and they extend a notification of interest to you. You respond saying, yeah, I'm 100% into moving to Alberta. They then send you the instructions to complete the application forms. And when they nominate you through that program, and remember, how did they find you? They found you because you have a live profile in the express entry pool. Well, if Alberta nominated you through their express entry stream, then 100%, you're going to get an extra 600 points. And so is there priority treatment? Well, the priority treatment comes from the fact that you're guaranteed an invitation to apply. So when you update your profile with the new nomination, you will be awarded another 600 points, which will pretty much guarantee you to get an invitation to apply. Once you receive that, then your application process is just like everybody else who received an invitation to apply. All right, great question, Silvana. And those of you who, and actually, Silvana, if people are wondering, what is this Alberta program? Well, if we go to AINP, EE, and we go to the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, they actually have a stream that is specifically geared towards, and let's see if we can find it here, the Alberta Express Entry stream. So this is the one that we're talking about. It gives information on what it's about, some of the factors that they look at, the criteria that they look at, and understand when it comes to any of the criteria, that the Alberta Opportunity Stream, don't be confused. This one is based on employers who are supporting your permanent residence while you're working in Canada. The Express Entry, and then there's all these requirements. And then at the end here, the Alberta Express Entry Stream is what we call a passive one. So they randomly, well, not randomly, but they specifically target certain people that have a profile in the Express Entry pool, and they say, hey, we would like you to consider applying for permanent residence to Canada. And not just Canada, living in Alberta, or as the case may be, maybe Prince Edward Island, whatever it is. But that is, and probably for you, Silvana, that process is would be under the Express Entry stream. Okay, good question. Next one is from Harshi, and Harshi says, I started my full-time job in Canada on the 23rd of December, December 23rd, 2018, and obviously he'll be completing 1 year in December 2019. I'm in the Express Entry pool now, and I'll get my points for the 1 year in November, as it is completing 12 months if they consider monthly wise. What can I do if I get an ITA before actually completing 1 year work experience in November? May I accept and submit the documents in December, or may I reject it? Please advise. I can tell you that in those cases, the government gives you the benefit of the doubt. So if they've given you an invitation and you are getting credit for, in your case, remember, you are getting credit for all of the whole month of December. Even though it's December 23rd, 2018, you would be getting credit for the whole month as if you started work December 1st, 2018, as well as the whole month, obviously, of December 2019. So yes, it is possible that you could get a nomination at the end of November, having claimed or believed that you have those 12 months. But remember, when it comes to permanent residence, and I don't know if you actually have your profile in the pool, I'm assuming that you must have other work experience, because the bare minimum that anyone has in order to even submit a profile is 1 year. So you need to have that 1 year experience. Otherwise, it won't even let you submit your profile in. So once you allegedly met the requirements in November, then at that stage, it would probably be enough for the system to recognize that 1 year. But maybe, Harshi, in your situation, you've got work experience from previously outside of Canada before you came here. So that is, yeah, so they genuinely do that. But I can tell you that it's up to an officer's discretion. And so they may have an internal policy right now where they're allowing those applications to go through because it's the system who's awarding you more points. And in all honesty, as you keep working with the company, you're going to, by the time you submit your application, you're going to have met that 1 year anyways. They do tend to be flexible, but understand, for me, with my clients, I don't take chances. And so I don't actually submit until I know legally that person has that 1 year. And so trying to submit the profile early, I think it's a real risky strategy. But if it's in there and you have an ITA and it was issued, then generally speaking, they do. They're quite facilitative, but please do not assume that that is the law, because it's not, and they're just using their discretion. You could get an officer that says, no, at the time you were issued your ITA, you actually didn't have that full year. So I just don't take any chances. Okay. Next question is Asan. And Asan says, in my experience, reference letter, my company has mentioned my per month salary. Is it okay, or I need to mention annual salary? This is another example. I'll share my screen, and we're going to go to the Completeness Check website right here, and I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to find, and I'm going to go down to work experience. So what Asan is asking, and understand from my perspective, I try to be explicitly 100% in following whatever they tell me to do. This Completeness Check site here gives officers an overview of what they're supposed to look for when they're determining whether or not a document is sufficient to satisfy immigration's minimum requirements. So you can see here, the following documents are mandatory. When they say that, I do not take a chance. If it says it's mandatory, then I assume it's mandatory. Okay, so a reference letter, and of course it's got you and the company's contact information. And then it says should indicate all positions held. So this is a should indicate all positions held while employed at the company. And here's the must, which is, once again, must and mandatory are the same thing. Okay, so must include the following details: job title, duties and responsibilities, job status if it's the current job, dates worked for the company, number of hours per week, and, do you see this? Annual salary plus benefits. So what Asan is saying, his letter says his salary per month. Well, once again, if I have the ability to go back and get the letter changed to say annual salary, then I do that. If it's not a big deal and it's just a matter of printing off another letter and timesing the monthly salary by 12, then fine, I do that. If for whatever reason your company adamantly refuses and you just have to submit it because you can't get anything else, then, well, guess what, Asan? Then you submit it with that. And then, at the end of the day, I think it would be a rare situation where an officer would refuse your application because it listed monthly salary instead of annual salary. If you can change it, change it. If not, then I think now, and once again, officers have discretion, but I think most reasonable officers would accept that. All right, fantastic. And guys, that was the last question. So we have here Razib. Looks to me like he is the last one here to post, at least in my screen. He's the last one to post a comment. So I'll just start with him. And Razib, and then you all can post your comments there. Let me just see here. I wanted to, just while we're waiting for people to have a chance to post their comments, let me just see here. I wanted to see if, let's see, give me a second. I wanted to show you guys just a couple things that are cool that I found that I think you guys don't know about Canada. So let me just share these here if I can find it. This is fun. So what I've been doing lately, because I just need to get out and get more exercise, I have been going for walks along our river, and it's full of prairie grasslands. And let me see if I can just show you. Okay, so that's probably a good one. Oh no, that's a video. You don't want to watch a video. I'll show you that one. Actually, this one's probably, oh, there's two. Okay, I'll share these pictures with you while we're waiting for people to post their questions. And remember, guys, if your question is, how do I describe this? If your question is like a 4-page thesis, it feels like enough questions to equate to what 5 people would normally submit. I'm going to skip through it. So your question has to be concise and small, all right? And it can't be, do I qualify for immigration? It has to be something general in nature. Okay, I want to show you guys something that's kind of cool. So this is where I go when I am looking for some solitude and tranquility. I sit up on the bank overlooking the river. This flows through Lethbridge where I live. And I just basically take time to kind of think and ponder, all right? And so also there, and you can see here, you can see the grassland. So this is the prairie, we call it. Now there's a little cottonwood, park, like trees and that are growing down here. We call this Cottonwood Park. Kelly, a 4-page thesis. Well, okay, theses are probably longer, but anyways, you can see the prairie here. Well, in the prairie, there are these little things right here, and they're little cactuses. And do you see what's growing inside them? They're little berries. And you would be so surprised. You'd think, seriously, with prairie like that, there's these little cactuses that are growing in the grass. And so what you do is you take the cactuses and you pull them out and you can eat them. And they actually taste really good. And right now is when they are, when these cactus berries are ripening. And so, yeah, so many people don't even know about these. I wonder, Stephanie, do you know about cactus berries? Stephanie doesn't even know about cactus berries. So you have to grow up on a farm in the prairie to know. But you could, obviously, I don't think you could sustain yourself over any length of time. But, so those of you have, beautiful blueberry bushes or wild bushes that have berries that you can eat in your countries. Well, out on the prairie, even the prairie of Alberta, you can have these little cactus berries. So that's something that, that's something that maybe you guys can try. And they're actually not bad. They taste good. I think maybe our immigration group needs to go on a walk down to Cottonwood Park here, a little tour, so I can show them. But when I went there last week, all along this, right behind me here in this picture, there was a bunch of these, and they were fun, and I ate them. So, all right, there's the stuff. Ew, Kelly, it's actually really good. That's not gross. It's actually sweet, and it tastes good. Okay, Amir says, if I want to consult with you, how will I pay? Credit card, my friend, is how you do it. And for those of you, also, I'll just show you quickly here. If you do want to connect with me, last time I was going to do this, there was a glitch on our form. And so I had our firm fix it. So I'm going to post in the comments section here the link to our, this is where you submit a consultation. So click on that link that I put in the system, and you can see if you go to stringham.ca, it's /immigration-mark-Holthe. That'll get you here, but you can also navigate to it just by going to the main firm site. And this is where you schedule your consultation, and then Stephanie will connect with you and get it all set up. So those of you who are wondering about that. All right, we have a ton here. So let's go back, and I'm going to find the questions that were asked. Okay, so we're going to start with, let's see where we will start. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Razib we started with. Okay, so Razib says, I landed as a PR on December 2018. I'm residing and going to grad school in the US right now. Can I apply for the Canadian PR for my parents now? Razib, no, you can't. As a permanent resident or as a citizen, you actually need to be living in Canada. And the whole parental process has gone through a number of transformations. As a Canadian Bar Association, our national immigration section, I'm the vice chair over the Canadian Bar Association in Canada. We are actually in the process of putting together some submissions to the government on how we think they should run the parental program, because right now it has a lot of elements that are just somewhat unfair, and it seems like no one can win. But one of the keys that you have to understand, Razib, is that you need to be able to produce 3 years of Canadian notices of assessment. In other words, you have to have paid Canadian tax for 3 years and be able to demonstrate that you've earned employment income that's at the minimum level necessary to sponsor a family member. All right. So Razib, short answer is no. You'll actually need to come back to Canada and live here and work here for 3 years before you're even eligible to try. And I can also tell you guys that maybe less than 10% of all of the people who want to sponsor a parent or a grandparent are actually able to do it. Okay, Parth has here's my thesis. Parth, you've got a thesis here, my friend. Okay, let's see if we can figure this out, because I may tell you to book a consult. I am in my post-AOR stage. I've done my biometrics. Okay, great. But I realized that, oh no. See, this is where you guys need to call. You need to book an appointment with Stephanie so that I can go over the information with you, and you need to hire me to do a full comprehensive review. It's only $2,500 Canadian. And when you compare that to what other Canadian immigration lawyers charge, or you compare what I'm offering with your useless agents and overseas consultants, what they charge and what I offer, it's like a Skype screen share, just like this, where we go into your MyCIC together. We complete we review everything that you've got in there. I even help you draft your letters of explanation. Okay, so let's see what Parth has got going on here. So I've made a mistake in the level of education. I have a master's according to India, and the equivalency was bachelor's. Now in the level of education, I've used bachelor's 4 years, and the Canadian equivalency, I've put bachelor's 4 years. So in level of education, should I have ideally put master's rather than bachelor's? Though it doesn't change my score, should I raise a web form? Okay, and this happens all the time. So it comes down to whether an officer who's being cruel and heartless and basically just a jerk looks at your application and says, oh, you've misrepresented your education. You've said you had a bachelor's degree in India here, but really it's a master's degree, even though the ECA only equated it to a bachelor's. It's unlikely that officers, the vast majority, are good, decent, reasonable-minded people. And so in many cases, I would really, really suspect that an officer is probably going to look at that and realize the mistake, that you just misinterpreted how you were supposed to answer that question in your education history. But I can tell you, for my purposes, I will always resubmit a case-specific inquiry correcting it. And it was never intended for people to do that. Express entry was intended for people to submit and not to have any communication, but they realized very quick that it just wasn't possible to actually lock someone out from providing any information to them. And as you saw from our previous guest, we have Mr. Shah, who joined us. He had an issue with his work history, and the only reason he knew that the officers were having a problem was because he requested the Global Case Management System notes, the GCMS notes, where he could see that they were looking at his work history and had questions about whether or not he actually had the work history that he was claiming. So in your situation, although it's a royal pain and maybe a little bit more work, I would actually go back and update it. In other words, you can't go back and update your forms that you've submitted, but send a little letter or an explanation to case-specific inquiry that says, please note, after reviewing my EAPR, I noticed that I had indicated undergraduate, like 4-year degree, when it should have been master's. All right, great question. Okay, Amir says, hi Mark, what about the rural and northern PNP? Amir, whole different situation, I should probably do a podcast episode on it, but it's not really something that relates to express entry. The programs, if you guys are asking, everybody's looking for various PNPs or other options because they can't qualify. They don't rank high enough to get an invitation to apply. So like Amir and other people who maybe are a little bit older, don't get those age points, are ranking lower, are looking at all other things. And so there is a rural and northern PNP. And just up the road here, Claresholm is one of the designated towns. And I think I'm going to talk to someone there and talk about their experience going through that process and to have them join me on my podcast. I've actually made a note of that. So, all right, but that's fine, Amir. Good question. Okay, Wasim says, hi, what about Canadian experience class? express entry procedure, please. Okay, Wasim, when it comes to eligibility, and this is an express entry question, it's a kind of an open-ended one. What we're going to do here is we're going to go to CEC eligibility. Okay, so we know with the Federal Skilled Worker Program, we talked a little bit about how you need to meet the selection factors and reach 67 points out of 100. Now, you also need to have that 1 year of continuous full-time skilled paid work experience, which is also a critical aspect of it, and meet the minimum language requirements for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. But for Canadian Experience class, there's a lot of similar things, but the big difference is that you don't need to have your work experience in Canada continuous. So as long as it's skilled, it can be in multiple different NOCs, even multiple different positions. It just has to be at a skill level 0A or B, okay? But all the same things apply, making sure that you performed all the duties in the lead statement, all the, and all of the essential duties or a substantial number of the main duties. And when it comes to Canadian Experience class applications, any work, self-employed work doesn't work in Canada, neither does work gained while you're on a study permit. So when it comes to the qualifications, there's minimum education, which obviously relates to if you've got, excuse me, you've got a Canadian credential or the 1 year essentially of work experience and minimum language requirements. So for anyone that is working in a 0 or A level position in Canada, Wasim, you need to have at least a CLB 7, which for all intents and purposes, often you're not going to rank high enough unless you have almost a CLB 9, which is the 8777 on the IELTS. 8 for listening, 7 for all the other abilities. And so, but if you're in a skill level B, then you only need to have a minimum of CLB, Canadian Language Benchmark, of 5. Well, if you're going through the Canadian Experience class and you only have a level 5, it's going to be pretty hard to rank high enough to get an ITA. But that's kind of the requirements. And so 1 year within the previous 3 years of work experience, that's one of the aspects. So 1 year of skilled work experience within the 3 years. It needs to be full-time or the equivalent in part-time. And the work experience itself has to be at least 30 hours a week if it's full-time. And yeah, that's pretty much, paid obviously, but it doesn't have to be continuous like with the Federal Skilled Worker Program. All right, good question. Next one is Kabir. Hope all is well. Is it possible to soft land an entry without the PR card? Does this have implications during citizenship application? Thank you so much for the response. Okay, well, I'm not sure what you mean. Like a soft landing is when you land and then you go home before you get your PR card. That's entirely possible. You just make sure it's sent to someone else who could then send it to you. So that's not an issue. As far as citizenship, that's irrelevant. It's your physical days in Canada that count towards citizenship, not whether or not you hold a PR card. All right. Okay, Kelly says, "Hi Mark, where can I get some private information pertaining to your fees for representation?" The best way, Kelly, is to just book a consultation. And the reason I do that is because when it comes to fees, and actually, let's see here. I'll share my screen, and this is the problem that I have with Facebook. So let's go back to Facebook here. Let's get to my Express Entry Law private Facebook group, which hopefully someone has actually shared this with the group, because now I'm doing this in the Canadian Immigration Institute page. But in here, you'll see that there are announcements. And I actually have apparently 29 announcements here. Every so often, I will go and I will post my fees. And then by the time I post them, they drop down to the very bottom and no one can find them. And, and so a consultation is really the best thing to do. But at the very bottom, I think here it is, are a complete and total breakdown of my fee structures that I offer. And so when it comes to fees, I try to give people as many opportunities as possible to use as much or as little assistance as they need. So you can see here is a breakdown on this page of, let's see, I don't know if I can, yeah, we'll go back. A consult, and this is a little bit older. My fees are still pretty close to this. They might have gone up just a little bit, I can't remember. And then Express Entry DIY Guide, that's the next level that a person can have. And if you go to if you guys go to the Canadian Immigration Institute right here, this is my new site where all of my new courses that I'm going to post are going to be housed. So if you go to the individual guides here, you'll see for individuals and families, I have Express Entry. So this is my complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. And so you can purchase that. That's an option. But if we flip back here, I also have a bronze plan, which I really don't do very much of, because this is purely on assessing your documents to make sure that they comply with this, the Completeness Check website page. So I do help with finding proper knocks, with assessing reference letters, checking out your work, your police certificates, all those kinds of things. That is all under the bronze plan. But what most of my clients, at least you guys who are engaged, who are intelligent, who are, want to submit your own application through your own MyCIC portal. You don't want to turn it over to some consultant who doesn't even allow you access to see what they're submitting. Well, this is the plan, my silver plan, and I charge $2,500 Canadian plus GST, and there's all the things that are included. So initial consultation, where we develop the immigration strategy, assess eligibility, unlimited access to the guide. So I give you this guide for free, and unlimited access to that, unlimited email support, 2 additional 15-minute phone consultations, and then a full application review, which is just like this. You see me, it's right on this same computer I'm broadcasting with, where we go through your entire Express Entry application from start to finish. I share a Dropbox link with you where you can upload your documents to it, and then we review everything together. And at the end, I even help to draft your letters of explanation. So that's why I love this $2,500 option. Like, I really, really enjoy it. But for those who just want peace of mind, then I charge $5,000 Canadian plus GST. And of course, the immigration processing fees are extra as well for a comprehensive, full, all the way through representation. So, and of course, once again, I'm not showing my screen, which, you guys, I'm so sorry. It's so funny. Like I go through all of this. Well, at least you could hear what I was saying before I didn't even show you what. So basically at the bottom, I'm going to go back because I don't think I showed any of this. I'm so sorry. Okay, so when you get to the main page of the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, you'll see that there is an announcement section at the top. And so if you go into the group discussion, when you're here and you land on this page and you go, it's not this convoluted. You can just send an email to Stephanie and she can tell you. But if you click here, see all 29, and then once you're here, you scroll down to the very bottom of all of those announcements at the bottom, well, just about to the bottom here, you'll see that there is then the images that I have that cover exactly the various plans that I talked about. So consult, Express Entry Do-It-Yourself Guide, bronze plan is $1,000. The silver plan, which is the review, is $2,500. And then the gold plan, full representation, is $5,000. All right. Hey, guys, I'm managing this on my own, so bear with me. All right. Okay. Okay, so I showed Amir how to consult with me. Kelly said you. Okay, if a baby is born after the confirmation of permanent residence, please, how much time to receive baby visa? Okay, Med LJ. So I think what you're asking here is you get your confirmation of permanent residence, but you have not yet landed as a permanent resident in Canada. Well, if you have a baby after you get your confirmation of permanent residence, but before you complete landing to officially become a PR, yeah, you can probably add on another 6 months. That's probably about how long it takes. By the time you get your passport for the child, you have the immigration medical taken, you have a birth certificate, the digital photo, and get all of that dealt with, updating your information, your family information, then it can probably take another 6 months. At least that's what I tell my clients. Okay. Jasdeep says cactus berries are called Thohar Bij in Punjabi. Very cool. Very cool. And Jasdeep, you got to tell me, like, what's with Abraham Lincoln, man? What does your real face look like? Okay, Joha says, hi, Mark, beautiful pic. I love the nature as well. Kara says, hi, Mark, do I need to notify IRCC if my spouse accompanying resigns from his job within a few weeks of us submitting our PR application. No, Kara, you don't. You don't need to update that. There's no points unless your spouse is in Canada, and there's potentially work experience for Canadian work experience. But no, I wouldn't worry about that, Kara. Okay, Rita says, work experience. Can I claim points of 2 years full-time working while secondary school? I paused my study 2 years in that period. Can I claim points of 4 years part-time working while university, which will give me 2 years? Okay, so it all comes down, it's hard for me to answer that, Rita, because I don't know how many hours you actually worked. So 15 hours is part-time, 30 hours is full-time. If you're outside of Canada, it has to be continuous. So if you are, in order to meet the minimum eligibility under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, that work experience has to be at least continuous for 1 year. Once you've met that 1 year, then you can add other foreign work experience to the mix under the Canadian, under the comprehensive ranking system when they're assessing your score. So in your situation, the reality is I don't quite have enough to specifically answer. Yeah, you've indicated I paused my study 2 years in that period. While you're going to school, and this is also something probably that you're addressing here in your question, while you're going to school, you can totally claim work experience. So there's nothing preventing you from claiming foreign work experience while you're going to school. You just have to show that you've been working at least 15 hours continuous paid work experience. If it's part-time, then that's 15. If you're claiming full-time, then it needs to be 30 hours. All right? So yeah, you can technically claim if you were actually working part-time for those 4 years. Yep, good question. Okay, Sonia says, I emailed Stephanie on the 23rd or 24th with a query and process to book a consult, but never heard back. Well, Sonia, that's a big concern for me. So I wonder if she maybe responded with an email and the information to book your consultation, and maybe it went to your junk folder. So I will follow up with her. And Sonia, if you can just send another email to Stephanie right now, then we'll confirm that she got it. Sometimes it can go to our junk folder because I hope you guys can appreciate we get, like, I don't even know, I couldn't even begin to count how many inquiries we get from people. Okay. All right, so we're going to keep Razib. You said, how about Super Visa? Can I apply for it? For my parents now, I landed on December. Super Visas are independent. It's all about your parents. Yes, you being there is advantageous, and but yeah, they're going to qualify for their Super Visa independently. So yeah, you can apply for it. And as far as Kelly says, do you have any idea when the Nova Scotia Category B will open? I don't. Even the lawyers that practice there don't know when it's going to open. They keep that pretty closely held. Okay, let's see if we can find. Okay, Salafa says, hi Mark, Alberta hasn't on a demand list. How can I expect that they may pick my profile from the e-stream? I already have all the requirements mentioned on their website. Salafa, it just depends on your occupation often. There isn't any one particular thing, and there's no real, guaranteed process. They choose based on what they feel they need. Okay, Salman says, hi Mark, I've ordered GCMS notes which state review required for stat question. My UK visa was rejected in 2009 and I've already mentioned them. Is there anything to worry about? Not really. At the end of the day, if in terms of the stat question, they may be looking at the UK to see exactly what happened with that refusal. It's hard to say. Okay, Amir says, many thanks. You're very welcome. Aryan says, where can I upload the previous divorce certificate for my previous marriage, as it does not ask for it in the checklist while uploading my documents during my EAPR? It's because they don't ask for it. So you don't upload it unless they ask for it later. Okay, let's see here. People are posting multiple times here. Kara says, thank you, Mark. You're welcome. Okay, Katamba says, hello, Mark. What is your opinion of one holding a job in his or her local country but wish to immigrate to Canada? I'm not quite sure what the question is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what your question is, Katamba. You have to have work in your home country in order to qualify to immigrate to Canada. If you immigrate to Canada, are you talking about working virtually, from Canada after you become a permanent resident? Because once you become a permanent resident to Canada, you can do whatever you want. You just have to show that you've lived in Canada for at least 2 years in every 5-year period in order to maintain your permanent residency requirements. Okay. Pasupathy says, "Hi Mark, is it necessary to be physically be in Canada to get a job? Or can we do it from the place where we are after getting the PR card?" When it comes to a job, it just depends on what the employer wants, right? There's no restriction. If you have a virtual job with a Canadian employer and they don't require you to be physically in Canada, then it doesn't matter. But understand that there's some rules that allow you to keep maintaining your permanent residence if you're actually working abroad for a Canadian company. But those rules are very, very narrow and strictly interpreted by the officers. And so in your case, it's hard to say exactly what you're asking about here. But if you're not in Canada, you have the potential of losing your PR if you can't meet that 2 in 5 year rule. All right, Monica says, "I have an offer letter." Hi, offer letter is needed or not in express entry. I have everything else. Also, my not code can be confusing with something else. How to tackle this? Please reply. Monica, it's a consultation, I'll be honest. That's something I'd need to look at the duties, the issues that you have. We wrestle with those not codes all the time. When it comes to a job offer, it comes down to whether or not you need the extra points. And remember, job offers, offer letters for the purposes of express entry generally mean that that company has applied for and obtained a labor market impact assessment. In some cases, under the International Mobility Program, employer-specific work permits can facilitate credit for a job offer if you've worked at least for a year for the company. But but those are a case by case, a different situation. Okay, Jasdeep, I'm going to circle back with you and you can show me how to do that. Oh, yes, Jasdeep, I know who you are. I mean everybody else, my friend. He says, "We've had like 4 consults in the past few months," and he's got a sad face. This is where sometimes communication breaks down. I know who you are, my friend, but you are the one who, but everybody else in the group has no clue what you look like. That's hilarious. He's got this Abraham Lincoln, his image, his profile image. That's funny. I know who you are, Jasdeep. Okay, and then Pars says, "If I've applied as a permanent resident, will it cause any problems for my younger brother in case he applies for a student visa?" That's one I can't answer. Looks like the sun is coming out. Give me a second here. There we go. Well, it's a little bit brighter outside. I don't need my light. Yeah, for your situation, Parth, the reality is it could. Some officers say, "Oh, you have family in Canada, so you won't actually go home after." Other times, they'll say, "Well, you don't have any any family in Canada, and therefore you don't have any travel history," and so they use it both ways. At the end of the day, you got to disclose it. Okay, Wasim says, "Hi Mark, you're doing an awesome job. Thank you. I'm at my AOR stage. My current employer has moved to a new location. Do I need to notify IRCC?" No, I wouldn't worry about that. That's okay. As long as you are, if your address changes, then you're going to want to definitely update that. But everything locks in once you get your acknowledgement of receipt. And it's just where you have employment, say where you've indicated it's your current job. And this is how I treat it. Your current job, and then you quit that job. Well, based on an officer, they will assume that you're continuing to work there because that's your current job. So sometimes I'll send a case-specific inquiry and say I'm no longer working there. But as far as the location, I don't usually update that. It wouldn't be necessary. Okay, Amir says, "When will you make a new decent for consolation?" Oh, discount, I think is what you're saying. Amir, I can guarantee that your $200 that you're spending is well worth every minute that we spend together. I am not intending on doing any discounts on consults anytime soon. That was kind of a one-time thing. Okay, Katamba says, "Thanks, Mark. He's a tax officer in Uganda, but wishes to immigrate to Canada. Is it thus the decision to make?" Oh, well, I can't answer that, Katamba. At the end of the day, you could be an accountant. I have a good friend who's out there and she knows who she is, who's an accountant, who's looking to find a job in Canada. And sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. If you've got a good life and things are going well in your country, well, then maybe you consider staying, because there's no guarantee, obviously, when you come. But like my guest here, um, uh, Mr. Shah here, who joined me earlier in this live video, self-employed, he's starting his own business and things are looking very positive. I've had other people that have struggled. Like I've had other clients that have struggled a little bit getting settled. So that's a decision you'll have to make. Okay, Pasupathy says, "Thank you, Mark. We got our PR in the month of April, and we did the landing. I got our PR and came back to the U.S. My husband is looking for jobs from the U.S., but no luck. So we're wondering if we should be there in Canada to get a job." 100%. Yes, Pasupathy. In Canada, showing that you're here, 100% is the best way of getting a job. Now, is it possible to get it from without being physically present in Canada? Yeah, it is, but it's way, way more difficult. Okay. Okay. Okay, Rita is asking a question about the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. Rita, how they treat work experience is different than how Express Entry treats work experience. So in your situation with all these work histories and all this convoluted process, the most important thing to understand is that education, while you're going to school outside of Canada for the purposes of Express Entry, work history, you can totally work as long as you meet the minimum requirements for claiming that work history. But when it comes to the various PNPs, that's a whole different discussion. And so what might work for the general provisions of Express Entry may not be acceptable by the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. So Rita, we'd have to book a consult and go through that to assess it in detail. So I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that one. Maria says, "Thank you for your efforts. You're very welcome." And Wasim says, "Thank you." Amir says, "Thank you." Pasupathy says, "Thank you." All right, guys, I have had a chance to answer pretty much everyone's question. I'll finish off with Monica right here. She says, "Thanks, Mark, for replying to each query for us. One more. Can I withdraw? Can a withdrawn EE create an issue to our active profile of not code or something else has been changed? Also, I hope not change is fine before the ITA and no explanation is needed." Correct. Yeah. So if you are making changes, then you don't need to worry about that if it's before your ITA. But note, if you look at your global case management system notes, anytime you submit your profile and it's in the pool and you go back and you make a change, you can see the changes that are made. And so they do still register, because I've seen them on some global case management notes that have come back. But if you can make whatever changes you want before you get your invitation to apply. There's no problem at all. All right. So we're going to stop. We're going to stop there. I want to thank everybody for making this episode so awesome, including my special guest, Mr. Shah, who joined me to talk about his experience as a self-employed applicant going through Express Entry. We did have a few consults to kind of sort through it because he kind of got stuck a little bit, and then we were able to save it. But thanks so much. If I didn't get a chance to answer your question, you can always book a consult right here in the link, as you can see, stringham.ca immigration-mark-holthy. That's how you can get here to book a consultation, and then you and I can go through everything in depth. Those of you who are watching this as a recording and want to see if you can get your question answered through the many, many, many people that are out there, all you have to do is send an email to Stephanie@stringham.ca, and don't forget to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. Otherwise, if you don't, Stephanie will send you back a consultation email with credit card authorization and with the intake form that we use when we start our consults. So this is Mark Holthy, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. Thanking you for joining me today. I want to give a shout out to my Canadian Immigration Institute. If I can find it, let's shift here and just do this. My Canadian Immigration Institute, this is what hosts, and if you will, this is kind of the sponsor of all of this. This is because of the revenues that I get from my Express Entry do-it-yourself guide. It makes it possible for me to be able to do this while I'm at work during the day in my actual work time. And understanding that I have lots of individual clients that I represent, but I'm able to slide in and do this. So this is where you can access it. All you have to do is type in Canadian Immigration Institute. It will take you to the main site right here. And then here you just click on individual guides. But I also want to point out to all of you guys, many of you don't understand how the job offer process works. And sometimes you'll connect with a Canadian employer and they won't know how to support you with a job offer that works for Express Entry. Well, this is why I created this. It's almost like a partner course to the Express Entry one for employers and job offers. And so rather than having an employer pay some agent, thousands of dollars to help, they can educate themselves through the use of this guide. And it is designed for people with high wage positions, which is what you would have to be for the most part to immigrate to Canada. Now, high wage, well, I'm not going to get into all these details, but this one is my latest guide for high wage positions. And yeah, employers who are wondering how it works can purchase it, and it will be a tremendous resource for them in understanding how this whole foreign worker program works and how to support someone who is looking to go through Express Entry. All right, that's all I got for today. I want to wish you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Take care.